Welcome to another episode of Balancing Acts, your guide to grow, profit, and scale. I'm Linda Hamilton, a CPA, certified exit planning advisor, and a systemologist. I've been looking under the hoods of businesses to understand what truly drives success for more than 30 years. And we know that the numbers really matter a lot in your business, and the story behind your numbers matters very much as well. So we try to tie the two together for you. Today, I want to focus on the financial side of growth. Everyone is chasing growth. It's pretty much what you hear from business owners across the country. They're trying to grow. They want to grow their top line, their gross revenue. And we want to understand really why the financial side matters just as much. Why does it matter? And we have a great guest today, Kirk Jaffe, who is a trusted advisor in risk management, compliance, contract negotiation, mergers. Kirk has a tremendous amount of background and experience working with business owners and helping them understand both growth and stability. He's also very passionate about philanthropy and actively supports foster care initiatives and education and social justice. Welcome, Kirk. I'm so glad you're here to help unpack this for us because everybody's trying to grow.
Sure are. Thanks, Linda. Excited to have this conversation with you.
Yeah. So let's start with what are some of the common mistakes you see people make when they are trying to grow?
Yeah, I think the number one most common mistake is overreaching, getting too far out over our skis, as I say, from up here on top of the mountain in Lake Tahoe. I think a lot of business owners, they just misallocate what could happen or what they expect to happen, and that usually causes some trouble. So managing those expectations is important and helpful.
Yeah, I think that's really important, expectations. And what about oftentimes they sell multiple services? It's very common for small business owners, multiple products, multiple services, and they actually don't know if those revenue streams from those products and services are profitable. How do you work with people on pinpointing that?
Yeah, and I find it's actually a very emotional conversation. We're working with a restaurant right now they're a small restaurant. They're transitioning from, version A to version B to version C of themselves, which is exciting and fun. But on their menu, they have like 38 items, and their kitchen and their staff can only handle about 8. And so going through this conversation with them over the past 4 months to really explain to them, how do you know where your profit center is? How much inventory are you holding? Why are you holding it? And what's this all about? And the answer I got from the client was, I need to offer something for everyone. And so we started down this path of explaining to them, you actually don't want to offer everything to everyone. There's only a couple companies on the planet that are successful at doing that, like an Amazon, as an example. But in a restaurant, you really want to be able to have containment over your costs and your execution and make sure the experience is great so that people come back and refer others to come to you.
Oh, that's perfect. You said so much there. I want to follow up on. How about experience? You're right. You can't, if everyone's your customer, you have no customers, right? So how do you get them to really get in touch with customer experience and why that matters?
Yeah, it's what I call continuity. And it's a concept I think all business owners really need to drill down on. Doesn't matter what your product does. What do you want your clients to experience from the very first moment that they interact with you, all the way through execution and delivery? And then after the fact, how do you want your client to experience you after you've delivered what you promised, so that they'll send other people? And small businesses, I think, miss the mark a little bit. They don't really know how to read their P&L. And I think that's where it really comes down to when you're talking about continuity, and then you look at the P&L, and then you start to understand what's making money, what's not making money, and where do we really want to double down our efforts to profit.
Yeah, sorry, I got excited over that comment, which is because it was like so perfect on helping them understand what they do and why they do it, right? Because again, that customer experience is not just the referring others to you, but they keep coming back, right? And they're not necessarily going to come back But if you're losing money, it's not sustainable, right? You won't stay around to serve them if you are losing money. And I think that is one of the biggest problems as a CPA that I see in business, is that, they're very excited about what they're selling, but they have no idea if they're making money, and oftentimes they're losing money. What would
I think that's where you and I really dovetail. I work very closely with CPAs.
Mm-hmm.
From my perspective, it's a 360-degree view, including the emotional. And I've had my own experience with it, which is probably why I understand it. I used to sell a product years ago, and there were 8 different versions of the product, and it was very hard for me to get it down to 3. But once I did, my profits went up, my deliverables got easier, my staffing expenses went down, and the clients had a better experience. And so really being able to manage our own emotions is important, because by the time you get to the CPA, and you could probably speak to this, Linda, they're not going to talk to you so much about where your mindset is. They're going to talk to you about the numbers on the paper.
That is true of most CPAs. I'm a little different because I am also a business coach, and I think even CPAs could use advice that you just gave them, because oftentimes you think of the technical skill, the Michael Gerber books. I am a CPA and I provide accounting services, but I also own a business, and I too have struggled over my 3+ decades in business with, what do I sell? How are the different things? How do you get that across? So if the mindset and the emotion and also describing what you do is very difficult. So that's my next question over mindset is, how do they describe what they're selling so that customers want it?
Yeah, I've been drilling down on this idea of continuity quite a bit lately. And continuity is really, what is the total timeline of your experience? If you understand your whole experience as a business owner, it gets easier to describe what you do. And so going back, looking at, SWOT analysis, gap analysis. SWOT is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Gap is, where are you? Where do you want to go? And what do you have to do to get there? These are old school business concepts that are taught, in business schools all across the country. But really on the ground, I don't think small business owners have been exposed correctly. I write 90-day business plans with my clients to really drill down on, what are your goals, what projects have to be in place, and what habits do you have to make sure your projects get done. And all this goes to that mindset and clarity and being able to explain what it is you do. I think a lot of business owners also get confused between the idea of marketing, branding, sales, and delivery, which are four very distinct areas, but have very important explanations in describing what you do.
Yeah, that's great. There are a lot of pieces to running a business, aren't there?
Certainly.
So how would you say that if they really want financial freedom, where's the best place to start breaking down the revenue and profitability? Where's the best place for those who aren't doing that yet to begin?
Yeah, I think it comes down to some principles. I don't run a marketing campaign if I can't see an opportunity to make a 15-to-1 return. And that seems excessive, but it keeps me out of trouble. If you go to a vendor and say, show me how you're going to get to a 15-to-1 ROI, return on investment, more times than not, the vendor's going to say to you, well, we shoot for a 2-to-1. But actually, if you get a 2-to-1 return on any of your investments as a business owner, you're barely keeping the lights on by the time you pay expenses and taxes and everything else that goes into running a program. So we shoot for 15-to-1. And if you get a 9-to-1, you're profitable. If you get 30-to-1, you're thrilled. If you get 15-to-1, you're thrilled. But that's going to keep you out of trouble, and it's going to get you to ask the right questions of your vendors so that you're not getting into bad opportunities that just can't make money. And then also reducing that offering, or getting really tight around what your offering is and making sure you can execute on it, and that we're not trying to offer something for everyone. Every business is not for everyone. Every business that makes money is for the people that want to buy that product. So let's focus on those people. Give them a great experience.
Oh, that's good. I want to ask a little bit about ROI without getting too complicated, because I think it's a hard concept for small business owners in particular to understand. Could you just, before we break, because we're going to talk more, I think, about your business plan process in the next segment. How about ROI?
Yeah, return on investment. You spend money, you need to make money? How much does it cost you to run your business? And how much do you need to make a profit? And profit, I think for small business owners, they think about, is the gross revenue growing, but they don't look at the bottom line that well. And they also don't consider what they need for their own personal lifestyle. So when we're building budgets, and we'll get into this business planning concept on the next segment, when you're building out the profitability of your company, also consider, what do you need for your own personal lifestyle? Because, business is great, but it's not so great if you're barely breaking even and you're living your life just to feed your business. Then you have a job, not really a profitable business. So we want to help people make that transition and cross that bridge.
Thank you. That's a perfect note to end on. And I hope my takeaway from that is really fixing your mindset, the continuity issue, and making sure that your revenue is also profitable for your business and your life. How can people find you, Kirk, online?
Yeah, you can always find me at kirkjaffe.com or kirkjaffeconsults.com. They go to the same place. And also 818-469-2189 is my business cell phone. Call it any time of the day, because in my business, I don't answer the phone in the middle of the night, but I promise to get back to you right away.
Thank you. Stay with us. We're going to talk more with Kirk in our next segment about a business plan.